Welcome to Improv Your Parenting, the art of turning parenting into play. Ted DesMaisons is an educator and facilitator who brings curiosity, compassion, and play to everything he does. He teaches at Stanford's continuing studies and leads training in advanced applied improvisation around the world. With degrees from Stanford's Graduate School of Business and Harvard's Divinity School, Ted blends deep academic insight with grounded, real-world practice. He's trained with renowned teachers like John Kabat-Zinn, Patricia Ryan Madsen, and Patsy Rodenberg, and is currently developing a playful mindfulness curriculum for parents and families in Shanghai, China. He co-hosts the Monster Baby podcast and is the author of the widely acclaimed book, Playful Mindfulness, a joyful journey to everyday confidence, calm, and connection. He lives 2 blocks from the beach in Daly City, California with his super sweet, super crazy Aussie cat, Marley. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. I appreciate it.
Delighted to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm going to start off this interview with the same question I ask everybody. How do you interact with kids, and what role does improv play in that interaction?
I like starting with this question because I don't have much interaction with kids these days. I don't have children of my own. I used to teach in a high school, and even though that was older kids, most of the interaction I have with the younger folks now is through children of my friends. Even when I'm out and about, if I'm at the store, or in the street, or at a park, I'm trying to bring the spirit of interacting with kids. Like, I'm just going to acknowledge what's real for them and try to participate with them as equal colleagues almost. Just like, all right, here we are, we're in this life, and like, I see you, you see me, and to get in a little bit of playful spirit with them is generally my approach when I interact with kids these days.
So what does that look like? Tell me a story about what that looks like, if you can.
One of my improv colleagues is a woman named Lisa Rowlands. She and I hosted a podcast called the Monster Baby Podcast, which we call a curious romp through the worlds of mindfulness and improvisation. Nice. And so we haven't been doing as many episodes lately, or any, I should say, for a while, because she had a child 3 years ago. The child's name is Ramona, and Ramona's awesome. I went up there to have dinner with Lisa and her partner and Ramona recently, and Ramona wanted to play being a pirate. I just got pulled into this whole improv scene. My pirate name was Floaty. Floaty just became this guy who was trying to swim across to get in the boat, and we just played out a whole scene. My intention was to build on whatever she gave me, to act as if it was true, and then to see what happened.
Did that come from the way you were raised as a kid, or was that more through improv classes or your time? You said you were teaching in the past, or all together?
Yeah, I certainly was imaginative and playful as a kid. I especially loved playing with action figures and stuffed animals, and I would create whole storylines, and my brother and I would set up our stuffed animals in football formations and run plays for them. I played a lot as a kid with imaginative Legos and that kind of thing. I think no, with Ramona or with the children that I meet now, I'm actively using improv principles that I learned in college and that I learned as part of the Applied Improvisation Network. Like, how do we keep this story going? How do I affirm this person as a person? Those kinds of things.
Tell me a little bit about your improv journey. You talked about college in the Applied Improv Network. What started it, and how'd you get to where you are today with all of that play?
I took improv the spring of my freshman year. I had worked in the admissions office at Stanford University as a freshman. That was my work study. And one of the guys who was an admissions counselor there had taken improv and was offering this dorm-based improv class in the dorm next to mine. He invited me to join. I thought, I love Scott. Sure, I'll go do that. And it turned out to be life-changing, literally. But I just had a blast and made all these new friends and loved it. So then after that, I started an improvisation group, and we started performing on campus and had a great time that sophomore year. Fell out of it for some time until I came back to Stanford for business school. By that time, the official group, the Stanford Improvisers, had started. So I joined them, was part of that group for a year, and then it went quiet again for some time, maybe almost 12 years or something. I would use the life wisdom in my approach to relationships and friendships and work, but I got a jonesing for it again, and I went to 3 or 4 week long summer program at Loose Moose Theater up in Calgary, Alberta, to just restart the improv. And then shortly after that, I got introduced to the Applied Improvisation Network, which is a group of colleagues who are using improvisation in other settings, not theater, not music, not dance, but instead business, healthcare, education, personal growth. And that just was like bells went off. Ding, ding, ding. This is awesome. This is really, and now here's this possibility. So at the time I was teaching religious studies at a boarding school, and I thought, I can bring this into my teaching. I can have the students do improvisational exercises to build trust within our group so that we can have better, deeper conversations about things that really matter.
Tell me a little bit about that application.
I was teaching, we had a whole religious studies department. In the
Okay.
1800s when the school started, it was an evangelical school. Dwight Moody was the guy's name. So he was like a major preacher in the late 19th century. But he started this
Okay.
really progressive school. Now it is not a religious school. It's not teaching dogma, but there is still this religious studies department, that religious studies and philosophy department, that is asking big questions and asking students to explore who they are, what does life mean, that sort of thing. And so part of that was some philosophy classes, part of that was world religions, Eastern religions, which blends really nicely with improvisation. And so,
Tell me how, please.
well, Buddhism and Taoism have so many overlaps with improv, and I would say with parenting. Even though I'm not a parent, I know that to be true. That
Okay. Dive down into that a little bit. In
Yeah.
what way?
I'll give one thing from Taoism, which is the notion called Wu Wei, which is action through inaction, or going with the flow. Trying to determine what is the flow here, what is wanting to happen, and how can I navigate it. It's not giving up all control and just being carried by everything. But if you imagine a boat on like a kayak, you're still moving with the flow. You're still making choices about how to adapt to it, but you're not fighting it. And, in working with children or working with a spouse or a partner in parenting, okay, what's our flow? Trying to identify what is happening in this moment. So that's a Taoist little nugget. But then also Buddhism is so much about relationship to change and identifying or peeling back our own assumptions and our blind spots and tuning into what's really happening and getting more comfortable with the fact that change is happening and finding resourceful ways to respond to that change. Improv is great with all of those things. Like, okay, what is my partner actually doing on stage, or if I'm playing music? Let me take that little riff and build on it. And now we're going somewhere else together, or let us share the control back and forth to make something delightful that we're creating together. That makes us more resourceful in dealing with whatever change we're facing.
You mentioned there are some things that I want to pull out a little bit. Going with the flow, and there's an acceptance. This is the flow first. This is what's happening. I accept that. I don't have to agree with it,
Right.
but I accept it because there it is. There's nothing I'm doing about that. And then from there, it's what do I do with that? How do I turn that in a direction, play with it, manipulate it in some way that adds value back?
Yeah.
And so if I'm working with the kid, what would it look to, I accept that you just did this thing, and now we're going to go from there. Sort of draw that out for me if you can.
Oh, it's a tricky question. I think
Sorry.
what comes to mind for me, and this is part of why I imagine I don't have children myself, is that I have a very sensitive mind-body system. And disruptions are disruptive to me. And I have to tune in to my own sensations and reactivity and this sort of thing in order to stay resourceful. And so as you were talking about that, I was imagining a child had written on the wall behind you and like a marker and coming in and being like, I'm so angry right now. I can't believe this happened. So
Yeah.
for me, the mindfulness practice, let me catch my own breath and settle my nervous system, my own reactivity, my emotions, so that I can be present. And then I might have a little pass through after that of the improv wisdom of, okay, mistakes or disruptions can be a gift. Can I at least put those glasses on for a moment before I react?
Yes.
This is all happening in microseconds. But just a couple breaths to like, okay, I'm really angry. What do I need to do here? And then come back to the kid with some sort of honest engagement that's neither hostile nor dismissive or disconnected.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So maybe it's acknowledging honestly, let's say the kid's name is Peter. Wow, Peter, I see you put something on the wall. That's cool. You're being so creative. It's really important to me to have a clean wall because I like how it looks. So I don't know what to do with this because I like your picture, but I don't know what the right response would be in that moment. But I'm trying to come up with something that affirms the kid and affirms
Yeah.
my own experience, but doesn't have to resolve it in that moment.
You're not looking for, we all walk away with a solution. You're looking for, how do we make this moment work?
Exactly.
You know?
And nicely said. The solution can come later. I want to maintain that connection because that's probably the most important thing.
It's the relationship. It's
Yeah.
the connection with the person.
Yeah.
Not the fact that the wall is without art.
And there may be situations where actually the immediacy of the concern is a safety thing, or it does matter more. Like if the kid's about to walk into the street, I'm going to make sure the kid doesn't walk into the street without worrying about, oh, are they going to be okay that I bumped them or maybe I scraped them on the sidewalk because I kept them from going into the street where there's a car coming. That there's an urgency there that's pressing, but
So tell me about when you were doing the teaching with these high school kids. How did you incorporate improv into that religion philosophy, and what did that look like? What was the interaction?
I had done a lot of studying what makes for effective teaching and learning. A lot of that comes down to, does the group feel safe? Especially when you're talking about deeper stuff, mystery, things that we don't know, things that are vulnerable, things that are coming from our family's beliefs, worldview. In order to talk about those things effectively, we needed to have trust. And playfulness of improvisation, I found, was an incredible way to build trust with the kids. It also was just fun, right? So then I thought, I want them to look forward to class, to be excited about
Yeah.
coming to class. Every now and then, I would start class with a game or an activity that had that spirit. They didn't know when those were coming, but then also use that to funnel into some rituals that we would do together. Sometimes we would take a chunk of time in class to do formal councils where we'd be seated in a circle and each person's going to get to speak and they step into the center and pick up the talking stone, come back to their seat, share their perspective, and then put the stone back. So whether it was play or contemplative practice like that, that helped to build the trust that gave us the room for deeper conversations.
Trust is absolutely essential, because if you can't trust somebody, you're not sharing, you're not opening up, you're not going to build anything.
Right.
You establish trust through games, through conversations. What kind of games would you play?
Played a lot of sound ball. I've played a lot of spontaneity games, movement games, tossing literal balls or trying to keep a ball up in the air together and counting aloud. Yeah, I would do theatrical stuff, but that's a little more advanced. I was trying to do lower hanging fruit. That's not so threatening, but it might be doing a word at a time exercise or a shared group drawing of some sort, these kinds of things.
Yeah. The key then was to get them all working together towards a shared goal, towards something that everybody had a part in putting together.
Sometimes it would be the whole group and we're putting something together. Other times I'd put them in pairs or triads and they're doing it in a partnership.
Supporting each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Getting the lived experience of, oh, we're building this together. We get to the end. We've created something that we both had a part in, but it wouldn't have happened without the two of us.
Neither one of us could have done that alone.
Right.
Which is a huge improv principle, is that you could build something as a group or as a pair, whatever number you are, that nobody could have achieved on their own. So when it comes to working with the kids on that, were they receptive to it? Did they initially, I don't know that I want to do this? How did they react to those kind of interactions?
They loved it. I mean, every now and then I'd have somebody who would be resistant, or maybe it was they were tired that day and they didn't feel like playing. Excuse me. But in general, they absolutely loved it. And that was part of what made class so fun for them.
Yeah.
And then they would speak about that we were talking about trust earlier, about trusting each other by the end of the term. I know we're a real group now. We feel safe together, and they would have shared some really tender stuff with each other and then taken care of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you heard from any of those kids later on if any of what you did with them had a more long-term effect than just in that classroom session?
Yeah, I haven't taught in that school for almost 12 years now, I guess 11 years. I still hear back maybe 2 or 3 times a year from former students who have nice things to say about their experience with class. In particular, thinking about having them be open to other people's opinions and having them be open to other people's worldviews and having a little bit of humility about their own. The improv sticks with people as a playfulness thing.
Yeah.
I do get more of that, Jeremy, from adults that have come to my classes since I've been teaching adults here at Stanford, who talk to me about having changed their relationship with their kids or their spouses or their partners.
Well, tell me a little about that. What does that look like?
So now, usually now when I'm teaching improv, it's as a combination with mindfulness. People are learning how to be more connected and more confident in any given moment, learning how to pay attention to the other person and learning how to build on each other's ideas and to say yes. Those principles, or changing relationship to failure, those principles are universally applicable. They find that when they go home and find what they like and what their partner says first before finding what they want to be critical of, that all of a sudden their partner feels better and they feel more loved. Of course they do, because you're supporting them. It creates a true cycle that way.
And that works across the family too. I'm thinking about with my kids, if I come in and just be like, oh, this is crap, that's a hard setup. If I come in and say, wow, you did a really good job on this thing, whatever it was, or at least, hey, thanks for putting the dishes away, something positive first, whether or not I have anything else in my mind, usually it's a better start. You said you primarily work with adults these days.
Yeah.
And the lessons you learned by working with the kids, I assume you're now using that with the adults as well. What would you say is the same and with adults that with kids that sort of surprised you?
What would I say is the same working with kids and with adults?
So are there similarities working with adults that you probably would not have thought of before you started really working with adults? So you're like, oh, wow, this is the same as working with kids in this space.
I think that adults often have more barriers to play. They've had the play chipped out of them. It's covered up is a more accurate way to say it. Fenced in or penned in. And so the play is not as accessible for them. They're even more grateful than the kids are.
Because they missed it.
Because they missed it. It's a human desire. I would even say it's a need. But as you were asking this question, Jeremy, I'm thinking of this new enterprise I'm potentially going to be doing with some colleagues in China. The guy who's leading the notion is someone I took an improv class with. He brought me in to teach playful mindfulness to his startup company here in the Bay Area. And this was 7 years ago. I ran into him at an improv show a couple months ago, and he said, I've got this idea. I want to bring playful mindfulness and all the things you teach to China. I want to teach parents and their kids so they can learn how to be together differently in this super high pressure cooker of Chinese education.
Which is intense.
Super intense. About building these parallel tracks, courses that the parents would take and the kids would take at the same time. And then week 6 or 7, they come together, share some experiences, and then go back to their separate tracks. But to have several, a course sequence that would build that family bond and the family understanding in a sort of playful, mindful, improvisational spirit.
I think that sounds like a glorious project. Anytime we can help families learn to play together is a positive thing. Wherever they are, whatever they're doing, play with your kids, play with your family.
Yes. There's such a play has this element of respect to it. When it's done well, you could be playing and be a bully and not respecting the other person. But to play in a way that is inclusive, then it's just like magic. It really is like magic in terms of bringing people together in a way that doesn't have to be about structural status levels, right?
No. And it's not even about funny or it's not about comedy. It's simply about interaction, relationship,
Yep.
and could we have a good time together? That's it. That's my goal for this is to help adults. You mentioned that adults have more walls up initially, and usually that's through whatever they've had in their lived experience, which has pushed play away. How do you then, if you, so on this project that you're going to work on, how would you help the parents in this space recognize or at least be able to realize I could play and play is fun and play is safe for me to do?
The phrase that comes to mind is baby steps. So
Yeah.
really low stakes, low demand examples of play that can feel good. I just learned a game from a colleague, Jan Keck in Europe.
Yeah.
I believe he's living in
It's
Germany.
fantastic.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he described an exercise that slowly builds in its complexity, but it starts with standing in a circle. One person goes into the circle, and then another person comes into the circle and gives that person a high five. And the first person steps out back into the circle. And then somebody else steps in and gives that new person a high five. And it's just a parade going.
Yeah.
People are stepping in, stepping out. They're getting used to stepping in and stepping out. Totally low stakes, feels positive.
Yeah.
A high five feels great. Don't have to have any
Yeah.
content, just people are smiling and laughing. And then the second round is okay, now we've got that down. Someone's going to step in and they're going to start talking. You're going to tell a story, tell us what you did this morning, tell us an insight that you have, tell us a joke, whatever it is. And
Yeah.
at some point when that person's talking, someone else will step into the circle, give them a high five. The person speaking steps out. Now the new person starts speaking about something. Might be related to what they just heard, might be something totally different. And then for a while, everybody's feeling comfortable with that. And then the third round, which I didn't do yet, I tried the others last night in my class. Third steps in the center and starts singing any song until somebody steps in and high fives them. And I love this notion of this sort of gradual build. If you said to somebody, step into the center of the circle and start singing,
Nope.
no way. Maybe with a group of
Not going to
introverts,
happen.
that
Yeah.
that super low bar of step into the circle and receive a high five gets
Yeah.
people used to
It's
it. Now they
easy.
feel good, they're taking care of each other. And it's not that
Exactly.
long of a time to get to the singing and have it be
Yeah.
playful.
And then how would you help these parents have that playfulness, not just in that group that they've done that activity with, but then be able to offer that to their kid?
That's always a challenge or an invitation in offering improvisational exercises. Many teachers just leave them at that. But in the world of applied improvisation, there's always the question, how is this useful? How is it relevant? Having a conversation about that can start the wheels turning internally. Maybe I could apply it this way. What did you learn in that exercise, or what did you like? And then how could we apply this at home? Asking that of parents. They're probably going to know better than I am because again, I don't have kids.
Yeah.
But just to have the experience of play and say, okay, what do we learn from this? What do we want to bring to our relationship with our kids from this? Maybe I just want to play this game with my kids.
It's easy enough for that.
It also might get to something more subtle. We built trust slowly, like we're just describing. So maybe I need to do that with my kid if I want to try to get them to do something new. Maybe it's at the end of this experience, I felt really confident about sharing some appreciation. So maybe I can seed this feeling by sharing an appreciation and reverse engineer the play. All of that can come out of the debrief if people are willing to talk about the play they did.
Yeah, because for me, what I would love to see is the parents be able to take whatever they get from that and be like, I'm going home now and playing.
Yep.
I want to take this to my family and have everybody have a good time there. The debrief then gives them the opportunity to come up with ideas and implementations. How do I use this personally? What would that look like for them? Would people be going home with the same things? They would be going home with their individual thing? And how do they get to that?
In my classes, as part of my home practice, I usually give what I call a live with, right? So if we have just done a playful exercise about changing our relationship to failure, and we might talk about moving from, usually when we mess up, we have what we call a failure flinch. That's kind of, dang it, this kind of movement.
Beat ourselves up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And instead doing something, woohoo, making some big gesture and celebrating a different relationship to failure. So the
Yeah.
live with for that week, notice during the week when you mess up and notice your first reaction. And then can you invite in this new perspective and hold that perspective in response to your mess up? And then notice how does that change your experience of the mess up? To work with it during the week. And then a really important piece to all this, I think, Jeremy, is the review when we come back together. What'd you find out? It really supports that investigation and trust that they have insights to bring back. And that really helps cement the learning.
What do they usually say when they come back after that week of celebrating failure?
Oh, it's really
Or at least recognizing when they flinch?
Yeah, it's really cool. I usually hear confessions of self-compassion. I didn't have to be so hard on myself, or I could laugh a little bit, or I could be gentle. And that allowed me to be more present and to stay in the situation rather than exiting, literally running away or going off in their mind to somewhere else.
I'd love to then ask them, and so how would you then take that to your kid?
Love it.
Because that would be the next step, right? If you could give yourself that self-compassion, how would you then offer that to your child too? So if they did something that angered you, like they painted the wall, how does the self-compassion come out for something like that?
Right. And describe that as well, the sort of making more room for the foibles of the people around them. Yeah.
Yes, because we're all doing them. Well, that's really cool. I have a ton more questions. I guess the key one that I want to get to, because I know our time is starting to run down, is if you're interacting with a new parent in this program that you're running in China to help families, where could they start? What's the first step for a parent to be open to this? How do I open the door for the first time and be like, I'm going to try this thing?
And this thing being improv?
Improv.
Yeah.
Just being open to the idea of play with your kid rather than being the authority and you must listen to me and do as I say. How do you open their mind to the idea that you can play and still be a parent?
Most of the things that I am offering are starting with self-awareness and then coming out of that self-awareness to seek or enhance connection. And so my response that I would offer that parent an invitation to greater groundedness and to greater calm, a greater feeling of agency and stillness within themselves so that they can be resourceful, whatever's coming up. And I have such awe for new parents.
Yeah.
I can only imagine how profound that transition is into parenthood.
Yeah.
Both oh my Lord, here's this being that I just spawned, that mystery in itself, but also the lack of sleep and the noise and interruption of all the previous patterns and schedules. It's such a disruption that I personally would want to try to give or offer a little island or oasis of peace, right? So when the chaos is happening, how can I recenter myself? If I can feel that moment of peace, I know that's still inside me, then I can go from there to be more present. So that's kind of a mindfulness approach, but it's also a thing with a seed planting of play. If I get the experience of playing with another person as an adult, I can just keep that little seed in mind and water it and give it some sunlight.
Yeah.
And then when I'm changing my kid's diaper, they're just a baby, but can I bring an element of play to it? Maybe that's singing. Or
Faces.
Flipping. Yeah. Just add a little bit more play to everything. And most parents are great at that. I think of feeding the kid at the high chair and doing the airplane and all those little opportunities to have fun and reinforce this notion of we're playing, we're getting done what we need to get done, and we're doing it through play, with play.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that because it brings the self-compassion to this person that's clearly struggling with the demands of the moment because they got this new thing going on. It's a lot. They're not at their best and they have to deal with something harder than they've ever had to deal with before. And so you bring that compassion to it and you're like, yes, And a way to help you through this is by having some fun. So wouldn't you want that?
Right.
I love that because it's not hard. It's something already built in
Yeah.
for most people. You have it there if you let yourself come back to it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
there are times when we're so tired that it's, I don't want to play. I just want to get through this moment. I just want to survive. It's like,
Yes.
even then
Yeah.
playing might help, but would understand
Yeah.
if somebody's, no, get your play out of my face. Like, don't do
Yeah.
an airplane with it.
I was thinking of that. We came back from a flight and it was like 3 a.m. We're going through the airport and everybody in the family was tired. One of my kids was bouncing around and wanted to throw a ball or something. I'm like, no, I need to just get home
Yep.
because I am done. So you got a nap on the plane. I didn't. Yeah, absolutely. This has been so cool, Ted. Thank you for these insights, for the wisdom that you're offering, for the work you're doing. And I think it's great to work with adults and bring them back to the idea of play.
Hmm.
And the thing you're doing in China to help families engage in a demanding environment through play is huge. So I am a big fan of that. Any last things you want to share or ways that people could reach out to you if they're interested in being a part of the work you do?
People can find me in a number of places on LinkedIn, or my websites are playfulmindfulness.info or .com, or animalearning.com, which is like animal earning. But
Okay.
Anima Learning. Happy to reach out to folks. I can also take classes through Stanford. I sometimes work with organizations or companies. I've had local parent groups bring me in. I love what you're doing in trying to connect parents with improv skills and improv approaches. I have infinite admiration and awe for the sacredness of parenting and the challenge of it. The delight when it works, it's such a beautiful thing. You're doing something great too in helping give people these skills. I encourage people to be compassionate with themselves and to experiment. Just try stuff out and play on their own with their own parenting and then see what happens. It usually works out if we bring that spirit to it.
Be playful with the playfulness.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's a great place to stop. Thank you so much, Ted. This has been fantastic. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thanks so much.
All right.